Hello and welcome to the Room to Talk podcast with me, Michael Dunn. In this episode of the podcast, we'll be talking about the world of filmmaking and cinema. With me today is our resident filmmaker and editor extraordinaire, Mr. Stuart Blair. Stuart, welcome.
Extraordinaire. I'm not entirely sure if that's true.
We've worked together a lot throughout the years, especially on filmmaking.
Not as professional as what we just were then, but yes.
Yeah. So it's nice for us to be able to sit down and talk about something other than life stories for once.
I've heard that they've been a little bit intense.
Yeah, I don't want to make you cry today, mate. So,
well, as opposed to the last time I came round.
Yeah, exactly. No more Chinese burns. So, to start off with, to get this conversation rocking and rolling, can you touch on how you became involved in filmmaking?
In filmmaking, I suppose it stems from a love of film. Like, genuinely, when I was much younger, wasn't necessarily big into the film industry or making a film or anything like that. I just enjoyed watching them as any kid would. I think the very first one I watched and really thought, okay, this is a film, and I love this, and it kicked up in fascination with it. It's probably Jaws. This is me, by the way.
Yeah.
With any sort of media or film related thing, I'm very excited about it. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. We were talking about Jaws, weren't we?
Yeah.
And how awesome it was. Still awesome. It's not changed the fact that it was made back in the 70s. Still good today. So yeah, that kicked off my fascination with cinema, filmmaking, and then I fell off it for a bit, as you do when you're a teenager.
Yeah.
So towards the end of high school, didn't really give two rats monkeys about it. So left, was working here. We did a couple of short films. One of them was the one I know you were directly involved with, Mike, was the Breakfast Carol one. So we used the worst little handheld DV cam that you take away to bloody Spain and all or something like that. And okay, thought that was alright. I can get something out of it. We did the editing, I think, up near St. George's. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Because
it was a little,
we all went as kids to do a workshop on editing, unless I'm mistaken.
No, that rings a bell.
I'm sure there's pictures somewhere of that. It's probably pictures of me looking like a right goon, to be fair.
Yeah, before that it was all just drawing things with pens and crayons, but all of a sudden there's some technology. And
all of a sudden you can take a moving picture that you've shot and insert into this computer and then make a film out of it, and that's like, well, okay. So then I left to go to college and walked in there under a pretense of being a geography teacher. So, well, this is it. I'm going there, it's all going to be sediments and the rest of this malarkey now. Walked in there, saw the film studios and thought, nope, I'm changing my career. And then went from there since, and then, worked with you guys for 10, 12 years and worked for freelance for a bunch of different companies, and yeah, it all stemmed from my love of film. Jaws specifically.
Well, so I remember when we were younger, I think your camera, so you went, I think you got camera for Christmas and you brought it to the group, and that was the first actual physical proper camera that I remember ever touching or working with, and obviously you were very helpful to me. But there was always something with me in my mind where I already had an idea I wanted to write, and I wanted to be somebody who become somewhat like narrative, to use a Ponzi word. I was always more interested in things like that.
Well, you were the idea man.
Yeah.
Every time we do a film, or there'd be some sort of, idea that's not even an idea at that point, just floating around, you would come in and be like, no, we'll do this, we can do this, and this is where we can do it, and this is a story, and, the urban legends thing and all this stuff, and I thought that'd be great. And you were always the guy with the ideas.
Well, that always mattered to me a lot more, in terms of structure and how it would come across, and like how more sort of professional we could make it look. Like in my mind, even though we were small films and like we were doing it for ourselves, I always thought of like somebody coming out from away from the group who could come and watch it and what it would mean to them as well, and then potentially one day becoming something that was serious. Whereas I feel like for you, it was always something that it felt more like a home project and something that you could love and nurture yourself.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did it. I don't think I ever did film or media to make a career out of it, so to speak. It was all well and good when you got paid to do it, don't get me wrong, but I was so interested in the mechanics of it and how I could do this sort of thing. It's mostly how I can do it on the cheap. How can I make this look like a film without using film stock, or how can I make this look a certain way without doing that? And that was one of my biggest interests in doing it. Like all the jobs we do back in the day, where you'd have to reinvent the wheel. And because if you work in a community group, you don't necessarily get funding to make everything you want to make. You get funding for things that no one's seen before. So it's like, all right, so we've got 2 flip cameras, we'll make a 3D film, because you can do that 3D with 2 small cameras. or let's make a stop motion film or something like that. So that was always the best of it because you could always do something different. How do you feel? How did you ever feel about? Because obviously back in the day it was very regimented in what we could make. How did you feel about doing stuff that not necessarily was something you wanted to do, but you can in some ways put your own stamp on it, like shooting films, far afield, as far afield as Wales, things like that. That's always interesting to me. The fact that we can go somewhere else and shoot a film, like, it's crazy.
I mean, that was always in my mind. I was always like pictured everything bigger than it probably was, or bigger than we could probably, like, realistically get it to be. And I know I was reined in a lot by obviously Tommy, who was running the group at the time that we were doing. And it was like, okay, we need to think smaller because we haven't got the budget to do this or whatever. But I always felt like because it's cameras and it's trickery and we can edit it, we can make it look a certain way. I always sort of thought bigger and wrote bigger and stuff like that until it sort of got reined in, and my sensibilities were sort of like put in check all the time and stuff like that. But I always, it was the most exciting thing for me growing up, and like I always look forward to doing these particular projects because I think it was great to be able to be creative and sort of like see your own sort of imagination come to life. Like you could walk into a room and say, "This is what I thought of last night," and everyone goes, "Oh, that's interesting. What would that look like?" And it's like that's the sort of thing that I enjoyed about it. And then you were always on board most of the time on board as long as it wasn't too kooky. And I remember there was a time when we just sat there one day, and I think it was just like I had this little idea. YouTube had only just started becoming a thing, and obviously we were messing about with technology in a way that probably people from where we're from would never really get the chance to do so. But because you had the camera and we had a computer that we could do a bit of editing on, we had a little bit of an idea one afternoon for a little cop show that we would do. And I think we shot a little, the opening titles to it, and we started coming up with ideas and stuff like that. And it was great little funky sort of Hadfield and Dunn based on me, obviously, and our friend Adam. And we come up with little skits, and it was...
the best thing about that was we not long got the Mac for the group.
Yeah.
Now, see, once you get a big piece of equipment like that, the tendency is to just use every single program on it, regardless of whether or not they're crap. So GarageBand was one of the first things they opened up, and I can remember making the theme tune for the cop show and thinking like, oh, this is proper jazzy. This is a real Shaft style, like old school 70s New York cop show. And in the end, in reality, it's just a couple of goons in Kersal messing about inside a church and filming stupid little skits.
Yeah.
That was one of the funny. I remember getting really into it at one point, being like, right, if we're going to do this, we're going to write a thing, that. And that happened every other week. We'd be like, right, this is the idea this week. We're going to do this.
It's funny though, because obviously we had those things in our ideas. I think when we were writing things together and we had these ideas, like I think there was a part in one of the films that we did where there was 4 soldiers, and we strictly said from things that we've watched, if you have 4 characters and we wanted to make it funny, you have a stupid one, you have a sensible one, you have a fearful one, you have a vain one, and that's the sort of thing. So we did kind of look to the things that we've seen before, but I think in a broader scale, we were just coming up with our own ideas. We weren't trying to remake what other people had done. Like we were trying to sort of like we had silly things that popped into our heads, and we were like, right, okay, does this sound doable to you? Yeah. And then we went and did it.
I mean, I remember shooting test footage, which I think I've still got online on my YouTube channel somewhere, when we shot the film in Wales, and going down there and being like, right, this because I had a Z1, Sony Z1, which, don't get me wrong, back 10 years ago was an industry standard camera. Nowadays, probably not so much. But back then was the bee's knees. And I went out and thought, right, there's got to be a way I can make this look like a film. Because I'm shooting it on tape, and I'm shooting it in, completely different aspect ratio. And I thought, okay, I'm going to box clever here. So in the edit, I literally just 2 black bars over footage that I'd shot. I made it look like it was in widescreen aspect ratio. And I thought, okay, there's little things like that made me more excited to make a film than anything else, because I thought, right, I can make this look like a movie now. If it's shot in a certain way and I can use this thing, I can letterbox it. Great. What do you think was like? I know I was big into the cutting corner type thing. It's sort of the Kevin Smith way of working. He made his first film for something like 26,000. It's shot in black and white, and everyone goes, "Oh, that's a really good artistic choice, that making it black and white." And he goes, "No, I didn't have the money to make it in color."
Yeah.
What do you think has been the favorite like cost cutting method? I mean, even now, I'm describing it to people listening at home. Realistically, when you think podcast, you think, oh, they've run a big studio and all that stuff. But no, we've got 2 tables with black fabric draped over it, and I thought, that's perfect. That encapsulates the group so much. It's unreal.
Yeah. Well, we're always sort of faking it till we make it, though. In terms of like whatever we did, we always looked above our station in terms of what we could do. And in fact, I think what helped us more was that we had the enthusiasm. I'm not sure it's available within the group at the moment because obviously we've not been that close to it. But I do remember we tended to have a group of people. We had a main group of people who were really creative and with the motivation behind what we were doing, but also a wider group of people who were all ready to get involved in whatever we did. It was like, when I say jump, you jump.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you come at them with like, oh, today you're going to be doing a voiceover for a carrot. And they'd be like, yeah, tell me the time and the date and I'll be there. Or this time, you're going to play a tramp on the allotment and, the fish things that have been, they're like, yeah, don't worry about it. Let's get a costume knocked up together. So you can't fault the people within the group, especially when you're asking to do such insane things. And that all stems from us just sitting down and being like, right, what sort of stupid thing can we make today?
Do you think that's a factor of where we're growing up in and not trying to create this into a sort of like a social thing? But do you think because there wasn't a lot to do, so the alternatives were go out on the street, stand outside a shop, steal things, what other people might have been doing? Do you think that played into how we managed to do what we did?
I think what initially started off was when the group existed at the primary school, and you go in, and it was something that, I mean, let's be honest with you, how many people that do you know in your life back in the day would ever have been like, we're going to make a film? No one's going to do it either. Especially in Lower Kersal, especially like places like Manchester and Salford. Despite the fact that there's a whole host of talent that comes from Manchester, Salford and Albert Finney and Eccleston and all these other people who are like real northern powerhouse people, especially in the film industry. I wouldn't have thought I'd making a film at 14. I imagine you wouldn't have thought you'd be acting in the film and then going on to writing and then going on to camera work and things like that. So that, I think, spurred a lot of us on because it was such a unique thing to do.
Yeah.
It gave us a sort of taste, you know what I mean?
Yeah, there was no fear of failure, wasn't there? Because even if there was failure, well, who's going to know?
Yeah,
sort of
you still made the film.
Yeah.
Half the fun is making, like I say, I mean, I like the edit more than I like the filming.
Yeah.
So half the fun is in the creating of the thing. When it comes to the premieres of the films that we've made, I've not sat and watched them.
Yeah.
I'll walk out.
Yeah. You know what it's like, isn't
it? No, because I've watched it 20 times over in the edit. So when it comes to an audience watching it, viewing it, I'll leave me. I'll go and sit on break.
Is there any sort of need for gratification from you? Because I don't feel like, knowing you, there is. You don't expect. You give the film over, and that's it, and that's the process done for you. I feel.
Yeah, I mean, because I know. Again, this comes from what you were saying about people getting involved and all that stuff. I know it's going to be received well regardless.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not just one person who's made it; it's an entire collaborative effort.
Yeah.
So I know that when a film's shown on the screen at the Lowry Theatre or it's shown at the Salford Arts, I know it's going to be received fantastically because everybody involved is so happy to have seen themselves on screen, or anybody who's had a hand in writing a scene or something like that will be amazed that they're in the credits, things like that. So I'm fine with editing a film and handing it off because I've done my part of a big effort, if you know what I mean.
It's a strange thing. I mean, I suppose nowadays more so that I'm able to work in the industry.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, I always felt like I needed that gratification. So I needed to sit there, not so much be celebrated. I would never be somebody who wanted to stand on the stage, make a speech, get a reward or anything like that. That's not what I wanted to do. But I needed to see people's faces, to see their reactions, and then maybe obviously we did documentaries afterwards where we'd stand and talk to people and say, "What do you think about the film?" and stuff like that. Which is an important part of the stuff that we do anyway because of the funding and the way that we're funded. But also, if you do something that you think is great, and I think you're very different to me, whereas you're happy, it's great because I can see it's great. Whereas I need to know, is it just me who thinks it's great, or is it something that can be received in a good way as well?
Well, I mean, when we used to make films back in the day, you progressed very quickly, I think, from being in them, because you're in a fair few of them as an actor, and then because I bet no one's like sat in a conversation with you. What got you into it? Because you were a kid when we first started working together. You were like, 6 or 7 when you first came here. It's ridiculous.
Well, I started getting into it in a weird way. I just think it was something that was natural for me to get pen and paper and write things. So I remember when I was young, I used to have a notepad,
Mm-hmm.
and in my mind, scripts were much shorter because a film or a TV show might last about half an hour. And if it took me half an hour to write something, well, that must be it.
That's half
you
an
know,
hour,
as a child. So like I used to watch things like the Terminator and stuff like that, sort of before my age should be, like obviously being allowed to watch it at home and stuff like that. And I remember I was writing scripts for Terminator 4 and Terminator 5 and understanding where the story was going from a very young age.
I mean, let's be honest, the scripts that you've wrote for Terminator 4 and 5 are probably worse
exactly.
than the ones that have come out.
That's true, yeah. And then I remember in primary school in year 6, my friend Kyle, who you know and you'd have met him before, he broke his thumb, and in this sort of a kind of get out way, he said he got a letter into school saying, can Kyle not go out at playtime? So it was like every now and then Kyle would want somebody to sit in with him at playtime and do something. And IT was new at the time, and we were sat there. We was like, what can we do with our time? So we sat there and we built this script called, and it was based on Saving Private Ryan, Saving Private Popo, who was a teddy. And I think we kind of got the idea from The Simpsons, and it all sort of blended together, and Stick of the Dump all went in there as well. And just being creative with ideas. And when we read it, we're like, this is good. So the more it did that, the more I wanted to do that. But then obviously we started to make films, I think, in the previous group that we had on, like you say, in the school. And we did the Dougie film, and it was an idea that came out, I think, from a collective of people wanted to do it because they were interested in making films. But I tended to have more ideas, probably because I'd done my own little bits of writing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like in my own mind, I wanted somebody to look at my writing and say it was good. So then I sat in the office within that school, out of sort of like overtime to what the group was, and sat with Tommy and I was writing things, and then some things obviously made and some things didn't. But we built a script that way. And then obviously because it's what kids did at the time, it was like, right, we're going to get involved in acting as well. So in my head at the time, I thought, well, everyone's been an actor. I must want to be an actor as well. So I did a bit of acting, but I also...
Hell, I was in that film as well.
Yeah, well, you were an actor as well. Everyone was an actor for some reason.
One of the first and last times I was ever in front of the camera.
But do you think that as a young person or a child is because when it comes to film and TV, that's who we see. We see the actors.
They're the stars.
Yeah.
They're called the stars.
Yeah. You don't think about the people behind the camera and stuff like that.
Like, I love Jaws.
Yeah.
I didn't have a Scooby-Doo as Steven Spielberg was at the time.
Yeah.
I just thought, this is a really fun film. You know, that guy is really intense, you know. And then after the fact, you think, I'm going to make this guy's a, prolific director.
Yeah.
That's when because you're absolutely right. Like, back in the day, it would be like, I can be in a film.
Yeah.
Not whereas now it'd be like, if someone offered me to shoot a film, I'd be like, I can shoot a film. I'd be way more excited to do that. Yeah, but bloody hell, Sean took pictures of me just before it started, and it was terrifying because he wants to get a picture taken.
I'm exactly the same way. It's strange, really, because I put myself forward for all of these sort of acting jobs, but I think it was because it was creative and it was story driven and stuff like that, and you could come up and you could collaborate with people in the room to build a story together. And obviously, I wanted as many of my ideas in there as possible, but not realizing that control comes from a different part of the production process. And then the older you get, the wiser you get. That you see people when we did do films with like Real Manchester and stuff like that. And there was a semi-professional group of people doing that then, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, why is that person with a clipboard walking around and like doing things like that? And then why is that guy with a camera there? And why is the person stood next to him and then wanting to understand all of that and then sort of standing by during scenes, sitting next to him and watching what they were doing and then getting a little bit more of a taste for it. And even now, I'd say I'm less of a camera person in my own mind than I am as a story person.
Yeah.
But even though I do cameras as a job, like I feel a bit of a fraud in a way because I can do camera, I can frame things and stuff like that, but I'm not as interested in that as I am in story.
So you're still very much the idea man.
Yeah.
10 years down the line.
Yeah, and I think my ideas have become more refined, and I'm not as creative as I used to be because like life happens and you sort of get down.
But then you still, I imagine. Right now, this is presumably it's one of the ideas. You know, like think of the ideas that you've had since I've left, in terms of right, we're going to do this now, and this is something I've never done before, and the over 50s documentary, all that sort of stuff. I imagine you're still sat in there with Tom some days, with a pen and paper, doing the same thing you did you know, 20 years ago almost.
Yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is mad, and the first to do that sort of thing is crazy. But I feel like when I think back to them like times when we were coming up with the ideas, and obviously you had quite a hand in the ideas that we were doing. But I always feel like you were like, right, okay, everyone come up with the ideas. Doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to find a way of shooting this sort of thing. And that's a mentality in terms of like the production that I don't understand. And I'm like, what's your motivation?
100%. I loved it. I loved the fact that they'd be like, you can't do it. I'm like, the hell I can't do it. I'm going to go and do it. Like, okay, you know, you've got a little flip camera. I'm going to make a 3D film like that. You can't make a 3D film. All right, watch me. And then it was, right, Tom, go and buy 50 pairs of red and blue 3D glasses because we're going to make a 3D film. Right, you know, I'm going to lock myself in a cupboard for a week with Mikey Woodward. We're going to make a stop motion film. Anyone says to me, oh, you won't be able to shoot that. I'm like, all right, give me half an hour. I'll go into my mind palace and I'll come back out and be like, right, this is how we're going to shoot this. This is how we're going to edit this. It's going to look exactly like a film. Don't worry about it.
So really, you're antagonised into making.
Oh yeah, I'm absolutely, yeah. Someone tells me no, then you can be damn sure I'm going to do it 10 times harder. You know what I mean? So they come at it.
Is there no picture in your mind of the films that you'd like to make? Because obviously we make a lot of documentaries and we made a lot of sort of bits of drama stuff, and a lot of it deals with supernatural things as a way around getting the story. But is there anything in your mind that you'd love to be able to film that, or you'd love to be on the set of something?
Right, we had this idea way back in the day of the Dougie sequel. Right now, it's gonna skew towards horror in a way, because there was all these urban legends, obviously the ones that you know because you were penning the story essentially. So there's all these urban legends that came together, and I'd love to shoot a horror film in a way like that. I'm not saying it's going to be flat out horror because you can't, you know, you're constrained to working with a group, but a good horror film, I reckon I could pull off quite well because I'm big into it anyway. Obviously, horror films are one of the things that I love personally, and they're always made really cheaply and on a budget and with really special effects that, although they may look not great, add a certain charm to the film. So stuff like that. We did the very first one, we did the Dougie one, where we learned how to make a ghost fade away by literally just transitioning two pictures, one with the ghost in it, one without the ghost in it. I was like, oh, that's a special effect, that is. And it's one of the easiest things you can do. People use this as just transition from one scene to the next, but if you put a person in the frame and then take a picture of that person with not there but the same background and then move them, all of a sudden you've got an invisible person. And even now, if I was going to show that to a kid, because I work with young people in work, I was going to be like, stand there for a minute, take a photo of them, then take a photo without there and be like, watch this. Make them disappear. Their heads will be blown away. So yeah, I'd like a good, scary, special effect heavy film. And I'm not saying, you know, blood and guts and all that sort of stuff, although that'd be pretty cool, let's be honest.
But making people jump.
Yeah.
Making the supernatural happen.
Yeah, definitely. Something that'll, you know, something that'll get a reaction out of people. Because a lot of the stuff we do, not that I'm saying it's very structured in the way that it's filmed. So if it's a World War, if it's a period piece, it'll be, you know, it's
got a message.
Maintain that style, and it's going to be very prim and proper. Or, you know, if it's a documentary, you know, documentaries are bread and butter.
Yeah.
You know, documentaries are just, you know, regimented in the way they set out interviews, story, through line, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, a good horror film where
so
essentially maybe you throw a twist in it, or maybe you throw something that people don't expect, and then
I get that, like, in a way, because obviously the way we are funded, we do have to have a certain amount of meaning to what we do. And with a film, you'd like to make have some sort of meaning and to touch people anyway, to bring the audience with you. But also sometimes you just want to be able to throw something mad out there and just see if it'll land with people, like Yellow Submarine or something like that.
You guys are in luck now more than ever, because with getting a consistent pot of funding and working in a way that you know you're going to be set for the next sort of however many years, you sort of do have the opportunity to make more things that you never made before. You should definitely jump on it. I know you've got ideas. I know one of the ones I really pushed for was the radio play, the stage play that we've done, turn that into a radio piece, which would be great. But you've definitely got a chance now, more than ever, to make some crazy stuff.
I think that there is a way that we can revive this whole sort of creative little part of Salford that we've made. And I think, like you say, with the equipment that we've got, and the funding that we've got in terms of being able to keep staff in work for a lot longer, surely it's something that we can do and like come together.
The equipment, man. I mean, I know it might sound like sour grapes coming from me because I used a Z1 for everything, and and it was 10 years consistently of like, right, this is the camera we've got, this is the camera we use, and the second I leave, right, all of a sudden it's right, new laptop, new Mac, podcasting equipment, new cameras, lights, audio equipment. I mean, what happened?
I don't know. In some ways, we were just waiting for you to go, mate.
That's exactly what it was. Yeah, hang on. As soon as she was left, that'll be it. We'll finally get all this new equipment he's been wanting for the last 10 years.
Oh,
what would you say is the best piece of kit you got now then?
The best piece of kit, I think the actual top of the range piece of kit is sat right in front of you. Like, I don't think there's anything better on the market in terms of like what we can do, like in terms of the microphones and the stands and stuff like that. And obviously we've got a new Mac, we've got a new laptop and things like that. And we're putting in again for your radio play and stuff like that to be able to mix and bring that to life as well. But again, I think whereas you were always practical and you're happy to work with what you worked with, where I'm more like, right, okay, we need to move with the times.
The next big thing.
Yeah, we need to move with the times. Next time we want an FS7, and we want to be able to shoot. We want to be able to not have to maintain something so much to the point where like we could spend an extra half an hour a day maintaining it, which obviously you can enjoy doing as well as being able to do the job on the site as well. But we can just pick the camera up, walk onto the site, shoot it, come back, put the card into the Mac or whatever, and start editing it. I think that's where we need to be as well, to be able to do as much as we want, because we're swimming in ideas. But I think the longer it goes on, those ideas are going to get lost. We do need to go from one thing to the other as quickly as possible, because
that was one of the big things that was one of the big constraints when I was with the group.
Yeah,
was we shot on tape. Now, if you shot 10 hours worth of footage for a film, it takes you 10 hours to then capture that footage, and it never captures straight away. It's never just 1 hour and you're done. There's always points where it stops, or there's a hiccup or something. You've got to go back and recapture a tape. If you can imagine, shooting films and editing films like that was a nightmare sometimes. I could be sat in the office for 10 hours and not have any work to do. Not that I didn't, just sit and play games or something. Sorry, Tom. But very time consuming. So now you've got, cameras with that's just literally flash drives and straight into computers, editing them in the next, within 10 minutes shooting something.
Yeah.
Is mega.
That's it.
Do that.
And I think that might have been what was holding us back in the past. So obviously equipment and stuff like that, and then the pay was a massive thing. We were disrupted quite a lot. Like, you didn't know whether you were getting paid 1 month either.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
But now that everything's settled, I feel like the community's sort of spread out, gone away, the ideas are gone, and we've not really got that balance. So what we need to do is sort of whip us into shape again. We want to get the enthusiasm back and bring people in. So an idea that I'd had was to kind of separate the community group in a way and have a strand specifically for doing our drama, like journalism in some ways, get people interested in more creative things, because it's only up the road that we got Media City.
Absolutely.
And I appeared in there once. I did go to uni specifically in Media City, but it was kind of a closed door thing. And what we want to do around here, hopefully, is to be able to say, right, okay, that's up the road. Can't we aspire to be that? Because it does feel a little bit still that this is a working class area, and a lot of people are out of work and they haven't got the aspirations. Like before, when we were saying that, neither of us felt like we would grow up and be filmmakers at all anyway.
No, not in the slightest.
But surely we should be having that sort of like social movement where we keep this area moving forward, and we use the people from the area, like ourselves, who we know have got great ideas, great determination, have the ability to learn things new, and come in and do a good job for us, and then hopefully go on afterwards and be a really good success, and we'll still be here churning out the next ones.
Oh, hopefully in a perfect world.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it may continue.
Yeah.
That's the thing as well. I mean, I am always. Then there's always talks about me coming back and doing more stuff, and I will do eventually. I'll definitely come back and get involved and stuff. But you were saying you've got a good group of like-minded individuals who will jump at the chance to be in any film that we want to make, any documentary that we want to shoot, any stop-motion video we want to mess about with. So now, like I told you, is the time, because you've got the equipment, you've got the budget, so to speak, and you've got the ideas, clearly. You've got the ideas, Mike. So now, throw them all together, see what sticks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think in this day and age, obviously, how available technology is, and people can do like short like skits of themselves on the phones and stuff like that? Do you think it sort of dilutes what this group can do for people? Do you think it?
I think you can adapt.
Yeah.
I know for a fact. I was speaking with somebody recently who works for Blue Peter and is leaving and is getting a job at Channel 4, and their big focus at the moment is Snapchat stories. So I know, maybe you adapt to something that's short form, because everything's short form. You go online these days, a TikTok's only 10 seconds long, and Instagram videos is 6 seconds long, whatever it is. And then do that. There's ways of adapting. I don't think the film's ever going to go away. I don't think the way we work should change realistically. I still think you'll get community involved, things like that. I think it's all about adapting, isn't it, these days?
I think, in my mind, though, the fact that this stuff is available to people and they can film themselves, it kind of takes a gloss off what we do in terms of like being able to bring people in from somewhere else. And they've also seen so much footage on YouTube and presenting stuff that they all kind of fall into that category as well. They all learn from what they see. You are what you see. And yeah.
And everybody's a host these days.
Yeah.
Anybody who watches a video game YouTube channel of a guy who's overly excited and is shouting at the screen and is very animated, anyone's like that when they present themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that is not that it's detrimental. People are playing a character, it makes them money. Why not continue to do it? I mean, I don't think we'd have much of an issue here, because as I told you before, although people can make a film on the phones and record an Instagram video or a TikTok, if you say to them, all right, we're going to make a film and this is the camera, and you show them the camera, then the rights are going to blow off, because, all of a sudden it's like, this is professional equipment and there's a light over there, and, that guy's got headphones on, he's working with the camera, the boom's there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this is way more exciting than a bloody phone.
Yeah. So
I think that appeal still exists that we faced, 15, 16 years ago, being like, that guy has just made a ghost disappear on the screen. He's got a camera in his hand.
Yeah.
Someone just said action.
I'd hope that we could be sort of that transitional phase for people. Some people could come in and do it as a hobby, but also like some people, creative people and people who get excited about this sort of thing, can come in, use the skills that they've already got or haven't yet got and want to learn some skills, and come in and just sit in with us.
So we worked with Real Manchester for a good few films, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we were just a little ragamuffin group from Locals who wanted to make this idea and make it a reality. We've now got the equipment to where we're essentially Real Manchester now, right? We are now that company who can then go out to different groups and be like, they want to make a film, let's do it. So why not do that? Go into the high school and be like, right, high school kids, you're doing media studies in year 11, whatever it is. You got an idea for a film? Let's do it. That should be that. I mean, I because then it's cyclical.
Yeah.
Because we've done it.
Yeah.
And then we're now passing on the tools and the techniques and we know how to do it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they get really interested in film because they're working with equipment they've never used before and microphones and booms and all that, and they're like suddenly well interested. And then they go on to college like I did and do film and media, like you did. And then all of a sudden, 10 years down the line, you're like, oh, look at that group there. They made themselves a little company themselves. You know what I mean?
In my mind now, I goes back to what I was like with films. Yeah. This could be the Silicon Valley of filmmaking. We could have the local area of Salford, bring people in with skills, hone the skills, develop ideas and things like that, and get people really excited and turn this area of people who are struggling into people who could be prosperous. Yeah. And they do that not from people coming from the outside coming in. We'll welcome anyone, that's fine, but really take what's there available to us, raw materials, build them up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the next big thing would be location. Get a consistent building or something. That would be fantastic for this place. And then this sort of stuff, the podcast is great for getting, messages out, things like that. I think a good studio where you could produce consistent stuff, maybe a web show or something like that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine like a community web show? And I'm talking like awesome little green screen and special effects. I'm already talking technically here, by the way. I'm already trying to edit it before it's even been filmed. Nice little jingle when you come in and locals on news and all that stuff. Well, that would be meant.
The small budget things that you're talking about before, like I remember like recently I watched during lockdown, the Adam and Joe show that was on Channel 4. It's basically two guys in a bedroom and it's like a magazine show. So they were presenting from the bedroom and then every now and then they'll throw in a little videotape of them going down the street, like going into a shop where it's like full of glass and saying, "You break, you buy." So they had a laugh. They started breaking it. It's like, oh, I thought I had to break it before I buy it. That's that sort of thing. You know, those are the things that are sort of easily achievable for people like in our position, I think.
Yeah, easily.
And then the more it grows, the more we grow, and the more the ideas grow, and like more professional we get. That's what I hope. So before we finish up today, Stu, I've got a little Q&A for you.
Oh,
that's
sweet.
all right.
I mean, I'll try my best.
Yeah. I just wanted to know a little bit more about you and your own like taste in films and people. So I just put them together. So, is there a particular genre of film you find more attractive? So
okay, well, I mean, horror is obviously one of the big things I love. Going from probably watching, I mean, you could class it as a horror film, Jaws. I wouldn't necessarily class it as a horror film now, it's more of a summer blockbuster. But horror, because of the way it's filmed, because, you know, the original Hellraiser was made for something stupid like £300,000, and it's gone on to become a franchise of the magnitude that it is. Or, you know, the first Friday the 13th film was just some guy's idea about making a college thing after they finished college. And then that's suddenly a massive franchise. Low budget, low rent, crap effects that catch people's imaginations and catch people's hearts for years is great.
Is that something that you actively seek, or is that something that you like to stumble onto?
I mean, I love finding a horror film I've never watched before and thinking this is great, or a series I've never watched before. But no, I will try and find the latest and greatest horror film that come out.
Is there like a film series that you tend to latch onto as well, and afterwards, or like are you somebody who's quite loyal to a film series or studio?
Studios, not so much, because the studio system. I mean, a lot of people can make a film independently now, and then they'll just sell it to a studio system. So, studio system doesn't really affect the way I view, like, Universal. Is Universal at the end of the day, you know, they produce some fantastic films, but no, a good director will make me think, okay. I mean, Hitchcock was one of my favourites. So any film by Hitchcock is, I mean, I would say to anybody, you've got to watch every single one. End of the day. So something like that. I'm not necessarily. My favourite franchise I've said is Hellraiser. And there's been some naff Hellraiser films, but it's still my favourite franchise. For the sole purpose of, you know, the first one was so great, the second one was great, the third one was great. They progressively drop off and get worse and worse and worse. But Clive Barker's a great storyteller, great writer. So yeah, I do like a good franchise. I've not seen a good one recently. The best one I've probably seen at the moment is probably the Conjuring series. And for the sole purpose of the whole based on a true, it says doing air quotes on a podcast where you can't see it. It's based on a true story, and they've got the little Annabelle doll and all these different things, and all the actual audio footage at the end of the film. That sort of stuff's good. It's probably my best one I've seen in recent years.
I'll put that on the list.
Yeah.
What type of film goer are you, Stu?
You know, one that very rarely goes to the cinema. Would you believe? Honestly, I don't think I can count one on the last time I've been at the cinema in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Do you not enjoy the experience at the cinema?
I do enjoy the experience in the cinema. I think there's only tentpole films that I feel I need to go to the cinema. I'm a big proponent of buying DVDs. So I know that a lot of people will be like, I'll wait till it's out on Netflix, wherever it is. I feel like no, because a film company can make or break its reputation by sales of media after the fact. Kevin Smith made Mallrats, and when it first came out in cinemas, everybody hated it. Whereas now it's a cult classic, and that's all solely on the strength of people not going out buying it on DVD and watching it over and over and over again. So if I like a certain film, I think I really want that, I'll buy the Blu-ray, because I think, right, I've got it then.
Is there anything about the DVD stuff as well, like the use of the package things in terms of the behind-the-scenes stuff as well? Is that something that attracts you?
Every time, yeah. I mean, again, going back to Jaws, I've never really bought a Blu-ray before then. I've been bought some for me, but I thought, okay, Jaws is coming out Blu-ray, that's the one thing I know I have to go back. So I got up at like something stupid, like 7:30 in the morning. Went to the HMV in town because I pre-ordered it. Got there, came home, didn't watch the film, watched a 3-hour making of documentary of Jaws before I even watched the film on Blu-ray. That's how much I like behind the scenes stuff. And a good director's commentary is nothing short of amazing. Because, again, this is... When I first watched films, again, going back to the beginning of the conversation, it was, this is cool. And then it was, God, I bet that was fun to film. Now it's like, God, I bet the like that must have been difficult, or the budget on that must have been really hard. So yeah, listen to a director's commentary and getting to hear their insights on what they thought when they were making the film is great. Everybody should do it. If you've got a DVD at home now and it's got a director's commentary on it, watch them because they're always hilarious.
It's definitely something that I'd like to get into watching a little bit more because there's absolutely some fails in there as well.
Oh yeah.
What are your top 5 films of all time? Jaws will be in there.
Obviously. Jaws is number 1, obviously. Top 5 is bloody difficult. I'm not gonna lie to you because there's so many that I will watch and consistently rewatch over and over again. Oh, I mean, maybe we can say it at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, Rear Window is a classic. Solely for the set that Alfred Hitchcock built. He built an entire courtyard of set of flats. So none of it was real. So all the little intricate little houses and flats were all pre-made and put in there. That's fantastic. So Jaws, Rear Window. I love the first Indiana Jones film because it sort of kickstarted my fascination with genre movies. Because I'm like, it's an adventure film. It was shot in the 80s, like late 70s, early 80s, but it was set in the 30s, and I was like, this is really bizarre that you can do that. I thought that films in the 30s were from the 30s, you know, when you're a kid you think things like that. So Jaws, Rear Window, Indiana Jones. It's hard, man, because there's so many good ones. I'm not a guy who's like, that's a crap film either.
No.
I'm not the guy who's like, I hate that film. I mean, I've seen some films that I wouldn't watch again.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever hated a film.
Right.
Let's go with Hellraiser 3.
Yeah.
Because it's the campest one and therefore the most exciting one. And I've got one more. Is that one more I've got to do?
Is something that you think...
Should it be really like cringy and say like...
You could recommend...
Breakfast Cow or something like that, you know?
No. We want to recommend something that people...
Recommend something that people are going to watch that everybody can watch and listen to this?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go with something mank. Or something so Freudian then, eh? Oh, Taste of Honor. Watch A Taste of Honor. Real old school, classic, northern working sort of film. Watch that.
I'll put that on my list as well. Yeah. What was the first film that you fell in love with? Have we covered this already?
The first film that I fell in love with, well, it could have been Jaws, but at the same time, when I was a lot younger, my uncle got me into everything that I sort of love today. So all the kitsch stuff, all the nerdy stuff, things like that. I remember watching Stargate in the cinema with him and being a bit freaked out at watching it in the cinema because it was like, it wasn't a film I'd never really experienced before, and all of a sudden it's like real heavy sci-fi and real thematic stuff, and I thought, okay, this is really weird. So that's probably the first film I ever fell in love with. One of the first films I saw in the cinema as well. Was probably Stargate, yeah.
So not in top 5 though. That's interesting.
Not in the top 5, no, because I fell off, and then there's like 200 different TV series and films and things like that. So
I'd still class my first film that I fell in love with in the top 5. That's interesting.
What's
The Lion King.
The Lion King, classic.
Yeah, there's a moment in that film towards near the end. He says, "You said you'd always be there for me, but you're not," and it breaks my heart every time.
Did you watch the remake?
I did watch the remake, and that particular scene, those lines were cut from it, so it can go.
Wounded?
Yeah, it can go, mate. Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau, what's he done that's great, you know, apart from Iron Man and Mandalorian and kickstarting the entire Marvel franchise, and, you know.
I think he should be ruined. Anyway, who is your favourite director?
Toss up between a lot of people. Hitchcock's great. Kevin Smith's fantastic. Spielberg's fantastic. Cassavetes is fantastic. There's a whole bunch of like real intense directors. I mean, anybody who's got the stones to get up and be like, I'm going to make a film as a director is great in my book. Anybody who's got the sheer willpower to wrangle not only the writer but the set directors and first directors and everybody involved is crazy in my book. I was never that aspect of things. I love a director. I don't think I could ever be one.
Yeah.
Because I don't have that personality and you've got to have a bit of a ball-breaking personality when it comes to the director.
Working with a lot of people.
You have to, otherwise the film's not going to get made.
Place, yeah. So what film would you say you've had the biggest connection with?
My entire life. Again, it's Jaws, man.
Yeah?
It's a perfect film. I challenge you or anybody else to come and tell me a better film that's been made. And the film was a nightmare. The film was horrible to work on. The shark didn't work half the time. There were nobody in the town wanted them to film there. The main actors didn't get along. You know, there were scenes where, one of the main actors came in and he was so drunk that they couldn't use any of the footage. They had to come back and do it a second day. it was against all odds, and it still came out to be fantastic. The shark didn't work, which leads to the best part in the film, where they had to make the film scarier. You didn't have a mechanical shark to do so. So 2 things: the music. If you can't see the shark, if I was to show you a picture of the ocean now, you'd be like, "That's very nice." If I showed you a picture of the ocean and went, "Dun," you'd be like, terrifying. Shark in there, that's scary as hell. The other thing is the yellow barrels. Because they didn't have a working shark, they shot barrels into the side of the shark and they said, "Oh, if the 2 barrels inside of it can't go down with 2 barrels," and it goes down. When the barrels rise up, you think, shark's there.
Yeah.
Terrifying. So that's why it's so good. Because everything went against it, and it still came out to be one of the best films ever made.
You feel like that's your life?
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. You could sit there and be like, "Oh, we've got all these different things to make, and we can't make this, and it's going to be over budget, or we're going to run over time and all that stuff," and it still comes out looking good.
Yeah, that determination.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there any film that you feel an emotional investment to, or anything that's got you emotional?
Any films that make you cry, basically. Yeah. I mean, I can't sit through Green Mile without getting emotional in it. That's one of the things that makes me quite sad. In terms of films that give me an emotional, that's like a goosebumpy type feeling, there's a few that have done that. The latest Indiana Jones film, which everyone hated, I felt a real attachment to because I'd watched all the films, I'd made replica props from Indiana Jones, I went to America and saw the ride. So when it came out, I was like, I'm going to be able to see an Indiana Jones film in the cinema now. I've never been able to do that. So I must have saw it about 6 times in the cinema. The film everyone hated.
So you'd go to the cinema 6 times for a film that everybody hates.
For a film that everyone slated. Because I would never get to see an Indiana Jones film in the pictures, in the cinema. I wanted to go and see it. Same with the latest Star Trek films. I love Star Trek, and I thought, okay, Star Trek's coming out in the cinema now. I'll be able to go and watch a Star Trek film in the cinema. How amazing is that?
So these are the things that you will go to the cinema to see, but you're not typical cinema going.
I've not been to the cinema in maybe 2 years.
Some would say you're part of the problem, mate. So what do you, as people are losing connection with the cinema, and obviously the times are at the moment we can't go to the cinema at all. Do you feel there's a way that we could sort of try and get more enthusiasm for cinema going back?
For film, I think make it more community based. I think instead of let's go to the cinema and pay 20 quid to go and see a film and then pay 20 quid for something to eat and the likes of that. I think you do more outdoor screenings. I think drive-in should be massive again. I think that'll get people way more invested in cinema than going to an overpriced cinema these days. And I know there's places in Manchester that are trying to get away from that home, which you pay a little bit more for, but they might show a few art house films, they might show a few independent films. I just think the cinema going experience is not great.
I try and make it a little bit more localised.
Yeah.
People don't have to travel into a town centre.
No.
Yeah.
All you need is a car park and a big screen, and all of a sudden you can throw a film anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's been great talking to you today, Stu. And what we want to do if we come back next time is try and get you to the cinema a little bit more often and talk about your experiences.
Well, we'll go and we'll record it. We'll watch a film and then we'll do a podcast on that film.
Yeah, and we'll start a little bit of a review.
Well, nothing's out. It's the middle. Everything's getting pushed back. So.
Oh, that's a good excuse.
That's my excuse.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Stu. We'll speak to you again soon.
No problem. Have a good one. Bye.